Hello and welcome to the video lecture series of Hand Embroiderer Class 10th Unit 2 Session 2. Today in this video we will learn a variation of chain stitch, that is raised chain stitch. The name itself says that it is a chain stitch with a raised effect on it, one of a continuous thread that loops continuously by giving a raised effect. This is a filling stitch, could be beautifully used as borders or filling multiple rows. This is a beautiful filling stitch. We can use this stitch on borders or geometrical motifs for a perfect look of a stitch. So before starting the embroidery, we need to do pre-preparation for the embroidery. The list of materials required are design, tracing paper, carbon paper, starch-free fabric, embroidery threads and sewing threads, needle, scissors, pinking scissors, embroidery rings. There are various types of fabrics used, but mainly for practice you can use a plain white cotton fabric or a casement fabric. Here I am taking a plain fabric which is starch-free, which is much easier for practice and learning. Selection of design is an important aspect of embroidery because it is an art. It is inappropriate if an improper design is selected. So for raised chain stitch, I would suggest all my viewers to use geometrical motifs or lines or borders. Firstly, take a design, trace it on a tracing paper, keep it ready. Take a plain white starch-free fabric, place it on a clean area. Then place the carbon sheet on it. Lastly, place your design over it. With the help of pencil or pen, start tracing your design. Make sure that the design edges are absolutely clean. If you think you're not that perfect, your drawing is not that great, or else you need some support or help, you can always spin the paper and the design with the carbon sheet. You can put an awl pin, you can use a safety pin and then start drawing. One can also use scale, ruler for the perfection. I would suggest you to please check your design perfectly on the fabric before lifting it, as it may lose the perfection of tracing. So now our design on fabric is ready. So before starting the embroidery, we need to fix the fabric in the rings. So take a ring, loosen the screw of a ring, keep the smaller loop below on a plain surface, then the fabric with design on it. Lock the design by keeping the bigger loop. Tighten the screw for a perfect look. Tighten the screw, pull the fabric from all the edges so that the fabric is tight enough and you get a perfect embroidery. You can check your fabric by putting your finger like this. The fabric should not be loose. The needle should pass by easily. So let us start our embroidery and insert the threads into the needle. Here I will take 3 strands of threads, insert them into the needle. Try a knot at one edge of a thread. Here I am telling you the base of embroidery. Initially there are 2 parallel lines for an embroidery. In a raised chain stitch embroidery, the embroidery will start from point A, the thread will then go to point B. This will create a parallel line. The next, inserting the needle from point B, again coming towards point C, then going towards point D. This will create parallel lines. This is how you will create base of an raised chain stitch. Let me show you now with the thread and the fabric. insert the thread from point A, make a parallel line, goes to B, insert the needle from B, again coming upwards to C, making a line, again insert the point at point D. This will create parallel lines. Here I am keeping a lot of space between these lines for the viewers to understand the embroidery easily. After preparing the base, lock the base stitch at the back of a fabric. Take a little fabric, create a loop, insert the needle, lock the threads and your stitch is locked. With the help of the scissor, cut the extra thread. Here you can see a neat look at the back side of the embroidery and so as in the front. You can see parallel lines on both sides. So now we will create the raised effect on the base to create a raised chain stitch embroidery. Here I am using the same colored blue thread. You can also take the contrast threads for beautifying your embroidery. Now let's start with the raised embroidery, the upper layer of the stitch. Insert the needle just on the edge of the first line. Remove it on the upper layer of the fabric. You should always remember not to insert the needle through the fabric. The raised layer of the embroidery will just float on between the parallel lines. We are not supposed to insert the needle in the fabric. It is just the continuous looping which goes on the upper layer of the threads. Turn the thread, insert the needle on the first line, create a loop. Do not need to pull the thread very tighten, just create a loop. Secondly, again turn the thread going towards upwards. This is how the chain will be created. Then next go to the second parallel line, again create the loop, lock the first stitch. This will help the first stitch to lock in the perfect space. Turn the thread, insert the needle from backwards towards upwards by creating a chain stitch going into one direction. Again, next going towards the third parallel line to lock the thread and create another loop. Again turn the thread, take the needle from backwards to the upwards, float the needle and the threads on the parallel lines. This is how the raised chain stitch is created. Keep creating the loops and then making the chains. While doing the embroidery, do check your embroidery that the front raised stitch is coming on the top of the fabric and the back side of the fabric is just the same by showing just the parallel lines. The raised effect is on the front side of the fabric. Keep creating the loops, passing through the parallel lines, creating the chains. After creating the last chain, lock the threads by inserting the needle next to the chain, take it towards back, tie a knot while taking a little fabric in the needle, roll the thread around the needle, pull the needle and tie the knot. Cut the extra thread. Now as you can see, a raised chain effect is created on the front side of the fabric. The front is raised chain and the back is just the parallel lines. To complete my motif of a beautiful peacock, I will use raised chain stitch and a few multiple embroideries to enhance the beauty of the motif. So let's continue. As I've suggested, to use multiple embroideries all together to create a finishing look and to beautify the embroidery, here I am using back stitch, satin stitch and knot stitch. Go towards the back, take a little fabric and tie a knot. Cut the extra thread and here your embroidery is ready. So now let us conclude our video here. Firstly, take the design, trace the design on the fabric, take needles, thread, start the embroidery, make a continuous raised chain stitch, do the finishing of the sample. Embroidery sample of raised chain stitch is now ready. Now you keep practicing this beautiful art of hand embroidery and keep watching, keep learning. Thank you.